Discourse in the social context, cognitive psychology. The field of psychology has many subtypes. You have clinical, social, experimental. In this case, we're dealing with cognition. When it comes to cognition, there are even many more subtypes. In this case, we're talking about discourse. So let's try and narrow it in and talk about discourse in the social context. Whether you're American, British, Bahamian, Chinese, Japanese, or from any country in between, doesn't matter your nationality, your race, gender, or anything that defines you. We are all social beings. Bob and Sue have kindly volunteered to help us understand discourse in the social context. So here on the left we have Bob, and on the right we have Sue. Since we are social beings that rely on the main form of communication being speech, Bob and Sue must take turns speaking. As we can see on the left, Bob is speaking first. And there must be a time-related sequence. Bob must not speak over Sue, and in turn, Sue must not speak over Bob. The goal of communication, of course, is to relay a message. Words are chosen carefully and in a narrative that is entertaining, that also relays the message to the other person. We don't always rely on the words themselves. We also rely on the emotions. We rely on our facial expressions and our gestures. As we can see, Bob's facial expressions and Sue's facial expressions change throughout the conversation. Whether you're the speaker or the listener, you must consider who you are speaking to and in what context you're speaking to them in. You must consider whether you're talking to them in an academic setting, whether you're talking to them on the street, in a pub, or anywhere in between. These situations differ from place to place, and the meanings of words change slightly. When in an academic setting, things tend to be more formal, and when in a pub, things tend to be more informal. So what do we need to keep in mind when socializing? Well, there are a few points. We need to make sure that we keep in mind the sequence of speech. We need to keep in mind that the sequence of speech is important for communication, and that way everyone's point is heard. We need to keep in mind context, where we are at, whether it's an academic, formal, informal setting, and who you are speaking to. You must also keep in mind the intention. What was the goal of the conversation? What was the goal of socializing with this person? What were you trying to communicate? And what were the emotions that were tied with the conversation? And overall, we must keep in mind, again, we are social beings. It doesn't matter who we are or where we come from, we socialize with each other. We need to make sure that when we're socializing, everybody understands the context and what's going on in the conversation. And if someone doesn't get it or someone's confused, everyone is brought onto the same page. That's the purpose of socializing.